Ladies and gentlemen, for another edition of Digital Soul Presents. I'm very, very honored and excited for my next guest to be on. We have been working on trying to have this discussion for a mighty long time, so I'm so glad we finally breaking some time, as the Southern folks say, to break bread together for them a little bit. Right. So we finally go to sit here and chop it up. So my guest today, very, very talented, multi-talented, I must say, performer, entertainer, writer, MC, producer, entrepreneur, just all around badass dude, man, can play anything. One of my personal friends and one of my heroes too as well. So he doesn't know it, but I'm like, yeah, he's someone that, you know, that I admire very much. He's a very talented brother. So I'm glad to have him on. My brother Law is in the house today.
Hey, now that's the intro I can rock with. Thank you, man. Wow.
This is my Brooklyn brother right here.
Better believe it. Stand up. Come on now.
What's good, man? How you been doing?
Man, I am blessed and doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I like to call it God's work because music is a universal language and it's a healer. So through healing, we're able to do whatever we can as creators, musicians, especially in times like this where we deal with COVID and you know, SAG-AFTRA strikes and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. You know, the center of it all is the music. So I'm just doing what I love, and I wake up with purpose every day. So thank you.
Yeah, man. I've been checking you, man, lately, man. You've been doing your thing, man. These shows, I'm seeing sellout shows, Bitter End, and different places in Maryland, things like that, man. And man, that out there killing it, we're doing your thing, man. Props for that, man.
Man, I appreciate that. I mean, you know, like I said, God is good. Like I can't. You know, ultimately the force of everything that I was created to do. And I try to encourage people to do that. Because if you're not doing what God put in your spirit to do, you know, and it don't have to be music. It could be anything. It could be what your heart desire is and, what you choose to push forward in. But if you're not living your dream, or if you're not doing something that's at least leaning towards where you like to see yourself, it's a lost cause. And the thing is, you know, when the testament and proof to what I've done so far, being in this business for such a long time, is when you get things like sellout shows and invites and the props from your heroes, and you know, all that stuff is entwined in what I've been wanting to do since I was 4 years old. So you know, it's a blessing. Like, it's a blessing to be able to wake up and make the decision that I can choose to either stay in bed all day, which I've done many times, or just get up and do some more stuff that's going to be pleasing to my fans and building the brand, you know, because, you know, guys like you have supported me for so long and just, you know, cheering me on to see me win, because knowing that every time that I get a win or I celebrate, I don't celebrate just for me. I celebrate for my peers, such as you and everybody else, and of course to all our fallen soldiers, especially on the funk R&B side, who never got a chance to get their props. You know, there was that scene in Die Hard with a Vengeance. Remember when they first got into the thing, and they were he's like, hey, you know, now we got to figure out what country to buy. And one guy said to all the fallen comrades, they all got in line like a soldier. That's one of my favorite parts, even though they were evil, but that was my favorite part, like the loyalty of to all the guys that died before we actually had a chance to do that. So anytime that I'm celebrating or you know, or bragging, whatever you want to call it, I don't give a fuck, but like this, you know, it's really about pushing the culture of what we created forward. So again, the sellout shows and staying booked and busy and blessed, you know, these are testaments to all of the hard work that I put in, but nothing is possible without him. God gives me the strength. I've been through trials and tribulations just like everybody else, man. And I just knew how to navigate and knew how to smile even when I didn't feel like smiling, when I felt like wow. So it's like, you know, it's a lot of that.
Yeah, you got to keep pushing through, and you know, when all the bullshit is. Yeah, for sure. You mentioned also, man. You mentioned the age of 5. You know, you said you've been pushing since 5. Talk about you have some family history. You know, your mom, your grandfather. So we'll talk about that. You know, there was some rooting there, so it didn't just pop out of nowhere. I know, but explain to the audience
absolutely not.
Where that history kind of comes in for you.
Well, I say it like this, you know, like I used to always, you know, before I even get into that, I used to always be made to feel like I was supposed to apologize for having a famous family, because you know how it is. People have preconceived notions about certain things. And that's why I've noticed, I mean, you know me personally, you see who most of my friends are. Most of them are sons and daughters of legends, just like I am. So the thing of that, you know, that's the reason why we bond so well, because we know what that feels like, especially like people like, of course, my incredible ninja, Indira Khan, that's Shaka Khan's daughter, for those who don't know. You know, it's been one of my besties for damn near 16, you know, over 16 years. And the thing is that we relate to each other because of things like that. But I come from, you know, my family was my Juilliard for music on both sides, the Taylors and the Worrells. So, of course, the number one rock star in our family was my late legendary grandfather, Sam Bluesman Taylor, you know, known for his blistering guitar work and songwriting work for people like Etta James. You know, he played with the Ozzy Brothers when they were still a trio. Joey D and the Starlighters, he's the original guitarist for the Peppermint Twist, so he's in all the movies with Joey D in the 60s. And then, of course, for all the funk soldiers, he's definitely more known and more famous for his work with the legendary 70s funk group BT Express. Duty is Satisfied. He's the writer of Peace Pipe. And of course, Everything That's Good to You Ain't Always Good For You, which was never released as a single, but thanks to DMX sampling that record for Get At Me Dog and EPMD sampling Forget the Bozak, my grandfather's legendary guitar riff is pretty much world renowned. So I'm just glad that my granddad got a chance to see that before he left that earth, you know, 10 years ahead of time. And of course, my other legendary uncle in heaven, Bobby Real Deal Taylor, 13-time Apollo Theater winner. My incredible mother, who's still out here touring around the world with the Supremes Review and stuff like that. Sandra Taylor, one-time Apollo Theater winner for first place. My legendary cousin, Cheryl Pepsi Riley, you know, known for her work with Full Force, #1 record, Thanks for My Child, and Tyler Perry movies and stuff. And my legendary uncle, gospel legend, the late Reverend Charles Taylor, recorded 60 albums for the Savoy record label. I mean, I can go on. Last but not least, my legendary uncle, Tony T. Funk Austin, known for his work with African Bambaataa, played with Kool and the Gang, and definitely played with James Brown and Bobby Bird. So, you know, I got it honestly. And the thing is, you know, people always ask me, like, how do you mold all that into one human? I'm like, well, this was, like I said, this is my Juilliard. You know, everybody had a section. Even my sister Neffy, who was deep into new wave and reggae. So for me, that was like, okay, now I have this to get into. And then last but not least, my recently departed uncle, Uncle Jock Taylor, aka Showbiz. He's the reason why I got into hip hop. So that's the reason, you know, he used to hang out with Kumo D and those guys on 125th and Compton and all that stuff. So he was part of the culture and brought it on there, as well as my Uncle Kevin being a B-boy. So I was surrounded with that part of my generation that was starting to come up in this new form of music. So this is me at 5 and 7 years old being surrounded by everything.
So is that Showbiz from Showbiz and AG?
No. That's not.
It's not that show. Okay.
No. That was his rap name. You know, his real name was Jock.
Okay.
Actually, he worked with CeCe Peniston, who has been one of my best friends for the last 8 years. You know what I mean? So it's almost like a funny thing how God works. So just interesting that my family has been in it from the correspondent of everything and all things relating to music. So I was raised in it. Period.
What was one of the first instruments that you remember picking up or clinging to?
I think that's the easy one to say. Because like all growing boys, we like, you know, that's why we love Bam Bam from Flintstone, because we just want to pick up stuff and bam, bam, bam. So of course, naturally,
there it is.
It's my first instrument. And I thank God I never stopped playing. I tell this story all the time. You know, drums my first instrument because my other legendary uncle, Rudy Worrell, along with Tony T. Funk Austin, two of them were the most sought after drummers in Brooklyn. As a matter of fact, my Uncle Rudy played for Blue Magic, the Dramatics, Millie Jackson. So you know what I mean? Like, and when he wasn't touring on the road, he was coaching all the young Brooklyn cats like Leslie Ming, who ended up becoming the drummer for George Benson, and on studio stuff, BT Express, him and Michael Jones, who later became Kashif. For those that don't know, it's a lot of history there. So basically, I was pretty good on drums, you know, starting off at, 3, 4, hitting it. And then, of course, my Uncle Rudy's sons, who are my cousins, Rudy and Rashid, of course, they're better than me because even though I got a little bit of time to spend with my uncle, they live with him. It's a difference. You know what I mean? I'm over there just for a couple of weekends just to peep out certain things and pick up on certain things as a kid. But that's embedded in them because that's their father. So, of course, I'm looking at Rudy and Rashid, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna keep playing drums, but yeah, y'all guys got that. Y'all really got that over there.
Yeah.
I never stopped playing. That's why it's so funny when people credit me about my drumming. They love the way I play and stuff like that. I got session work and things that I've done with videos. And I always tell people, I'm like, man, y'all think I'm dope. Y'all got to hear my cousins and my uncles and stuff like that. So that's why I get it from. I'm self-taught, just like with everything else. And then, of course, the next thing would probably definitely be, without question, the instrument I'm probably known for the most, which is guitar. My grandfather, Stan Bluesman Taylor, I mean, that's my first hero. So it's like, for me, seeing him play, I'm like, maybe I should get into that. Since Rudy and Rasheen got the drums on lock, and it worked out best. There wasn't a lot of guitar players in our family. As a matter of fact, my incredible niece, Bree, she's actually the first female in the Taylor family that actually wanted to pick up a guitar based upon the influence of her uncle.
Wow.
She's 17 years old, and she's just out here recently. And the thing is, it makes me feel good. I'm just like, now we got another guitarist in the family.
Yeah,
I'm not the only one,
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, what are some of your earliest memories, man? Like, because I know, not to say our ages, but we're close in age.
Oh, we can, I mean, I really don't care, but I feel you on that.
Yeah,
behind what
I kind of, because I know we kind of grew up with, those eras kind of line up with us, with hip hop emerging, with us being right at that prime teen age, and it really influencing us to study MCing and producing and things like that, along with already being in love with R&B and funk as a child and new wave and all that. Talk a little bit about being a child and the hip hop coming into your life, and then wanting to evolve to an MC.
Well, I mean, it's like I said before. My roots are gospel. Obviously, I'm Baptist Pentecostal. So, my grandmother, Beatrice, may she rest in peace. So I was singing on the, me and my sister Chichi was already singing on the choir. And Sister Harold played the Hammond B3 organ. So all that stuff was in relation. See, we were different from most families that went to church. Because, I grew up, like I said, Baptist Pentecostal, and of course, later became non-denominational, born-again Christian. And the thing about this is that, because, when you usually hear about people who grew up in church, it's always we don't allow that secular stuff. But our family was different, because no matter how much Shirley Caesar, Bill Moss and the Clark sisters and the Canton Spirituals, I mean, we grew up on all that quartet stuff. No matter how much we grew up on, once we got back to the house, whether it was my grandmother or me and my mom's house and my siblings, the Temptations came out, everything, we pulled out everything, James Brown, and then all the stuff that was happening in my generation, like New Edition, Luther Vandross was finally hitting big after all the years that he spent in the 70s singing backup, and now in the 80s, he was a bona fide superstar. So the new wave, and then here comes Sissy Houston's daughter, Whitney, after her years of singing background for Shaka Khan and being under her mother's guidance. Now here she is emerging as our premier, template platinum standard for female singers. You know what I mean? So, I'm getting laced with all of this. So gospel, and of course with my uncle, my uncle Tony T Funk, the funk was already there. So everything from, the Ozzy Brothers, the Commodores, Chicago, and then Uncle Tony was deep into jazz fusion. So of course Miles Davis, Weather Report, Mad Vishnu Orchestra, Return to Forever, all that stuff was embedded. Like I said, my family was my Juilliard for music. So of course, around 6 to 7, now mind you, I'm already doing shows with my family. We're doing Parks Department shows in New York. We're playing on all the major parks, from the Bronx to Queensbridge. Before Queensbridge became that thing, we was already doing shows in Queensbridge. Because if you listen to what's the first 2 lines of MC Shan's song? Hip hop started out in the Bronx. They doing it because that was the truth. Because a lot of the jams and block parties, even of course, it started in the Bronx, but it filtered to every borough in New York City. So the bands would play outside. And of course, my mother was in about 4 or 5 different bands, not to mention her boyfriend, before she met my father, was Mookie from the legendary Crown Heights Affair. So, see what I'm saying? So, all those guys are my babysitters. I grew up Grass Construction, then later, of course, Sky. For those that know Sky, Call Me, Let's Celebrate, and all that stuff. And Here's to You. I was surrounded by all of that. So, in between all the funk, R&B, and gospel, me and my sister singing BB and CC Winans in church and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, hip hop takes over. All of a sudden, here comes my Uncle BB, here comes my Uncle Kevin. My Uncle Kevin listens to Super Rock and Mr. Magic, got all the tapes. And my uncle still got his tapes, by the way. He still has all the cassette tapes from BLS and everything else. And then I'm learning about the Cold Crush Brothers and the Fearless Four and the Funky Four plus one more. You know, I'm learning about all the things because he's playing and I'm listening to Busy Bee, Cash, Money, to the bill. Like I'm hearing all this stuff and I'm listening. I'm just like, I can do that. Because I was already writing poetry at 6 or 7. I had a way with words. So it's almost like I didn't know how to rap. So it's just more thing I'm putting on. I'm like, Chill, The Gang, On the Street, Lawrence Warrell, I Can't Be Beat. And of course, that was corny as hell. But the thing is that I still master. So then comes along my incredible uncle. I miss him so much. We just lost him this year. So it's still kind of fresh in my thing. My Uncle Jock, AKA Showbiz. Now, mind you, the thing that made him unique, because again, him and my Uncle Bobby, they were like the young version of Sam and Dave. So they went out to California following my grandfather to pursue them dreams because they was escaping drugs and crime. You know, they was into all kind of shit. And my Aunt Vicky, rest her soul, and my grandmother, they was like, let's send them to Sam because they stay out here in these streets, they're going to be in trouble. And my Uncle Bobby and my Uncle Jock went out to California to perform my grandfather. So they were already rapping on stage with him, so that they were singing with a live band. They'd be like, well, I'm known from sea to sea, dedicated Prince to Portwood Tree. Well, I'm known. So basically, BB was bringing that stuff over to the West Coast at a time when it wasn't in your face just yet. That's just before we had NWA and everybody else that came out of your side. But in the clubs in 1980, 81, my uncle and my uncles were out there singing because my Uncle Jock could sing too. Like he's a first tenor, and my Uncle Bobby's a first tenor too. So he was a singer and a rapper. This is predating the Force MCs who later became the Force MD. So now you understand why my style is a combination of singing and rapping, because now it's like, okay, I can sing. My guitar skills are getting pretty kind of good, and I'm still learning some stuff, and I can already dance. So I'm just like, damn. So my Uncle Jock was like, hey Lawrence, you want to rap? You really like rapping, huh? He's like, yeah. And then I'm gonna play this record for you. Check this record out. Broken glass everywhere. People pissed on the stairs. And when I heard Melly Mel, I'm just like, yeah. And then just when I thought it couldn't get no better, Run DMC and the Fat Boys come out. After that, Law still remained Law the singer. But now I was destined to be Law the MC. Because here's the thing. I love singing in church. I love singing with my parents and stuff like that and my uncles. But hip hop culture gave me a voice of expression. Because you can express yourself when you sing too. You know, you have to connect with your audience, which I learned how to do. You know, remember Marvin Gaye, Smokey, I studied all of them. So my thing was, that's one component. But you gotta remember, hip hop was born in the streets. That's where I'm from. Crown Heights, Albany Projects, St. Mark's Avenue, Brooklyn, stand up. And around that time, you couldn't afford just to be another kid smiling in church because the streets were changing, our neighborhoods were changing. And then once the crack epidemic hit, everything changed. You know, the innocence of our youth was gone on a lot of levels. And hip hop culture spoke to the degrees of that. Rap music came in the first form because, of course, the 4 elements, DJing, graffitiing, it was our way of expression. Now, here's the funny thing, because remember, y'all spray painting buildings, that's against the law. Now, look at us now. Graffiti is world renowned all over the world. No, it's all over the world. I've been to Paris. I've been to London. They have murals of them trying to be like us. So this is the reason why, and of course, this year, this is 50-year anniversary of hip hop. So as someone who saw the shit as it was happening, for me, no one could be more happier than me and my Uncle Kevin, who's still with us, And the thing is that it's a celebration when I get on that corporate gig stage and I fold my arms, or I choose to grab my nuts if I want to, or hold my hat like this or some shit, because that was against all things musical. So that transition for me, around 7, I started writing my first rhyme. So between Grandmaster Flash, The Furious 5, Treacherous 3, and that whole situation, I got into it. And of course, once the golden era kicked in, because the first time I heard Rakim and Kane and definitely L.L., and definitely my favorite MC of all time, Coogee Rap, for me, it was like, okay, I know how to rap, but now I got to know how to rhyme. It's a difference. Yeah. You're rapping, but now you got to rhyme. You're an MC now. That means everything that you say out your mouth got to be something that's going to make motherfuckers go.
Yeah, and you got to stand out. You got to be different.
And you got to stand out. So, I mean, and think about that at one point, because considering that, like I said, we had to, force some Ds, who were MCs first, and then of course they were singers all along. So that gave them a lane that nobody else, because without question, they are the originators of what we call hip hop and R&B. And of course, you got to go full force in there because they were the producers aligning themselves with that as well. Like a lot, and then UTFO.
TFO, I'm just going to
rest in peace to my mentor, Kango. He said the one line that pretty much set my career up for the last 25 years. I'm Kango. So she said, so. I said, so, baby, don't you know I can sing, rap, and dance in just one show. That's me. I'm like, he's like me. He sings, he raps, he can dance. Now, I don't know if Kango played an instrument. I think he played a little bit of keyboard, but the thing was, that's the advantage I had over most of my peers. I played by that time, by the time I turned 11, I was already playing 5 instruments. So for me, it's like, the whole thing of trying to just get into each one. But that was a transition. So as you see, the flow was kind of really seamless. It was really, in the bulk of that.
Yeah, dope, man, dope. During that time, I know you've honed your skills, man, for several years and doing your thing, and then earned you a spot in one of the most legendary bands in the entire world. Land you there, the Army, the P-Funk Army. So talk about your entry to there, man, which is awesome.
Well, first, let me just say this, man. After 20 years of being a P-Funk camp member, I still pinch myself. It's mind-blowing, you know what I mean? And it was manifested because, of course, thanks to my legendary uncle, Tony T. Funk Austin, of course, most things funk. My grandfather, definitely because of the work with BT Express and all the New York City funk bands that were played in disco, stuff like that. But more directly, Uncle Tony, because remember, he was a premier funk drummer in the land of Brooklyn and playing all the clubs in New York, especially in the Brooklyn and Bronx area. So the interesting thing about hearing all the cuts like Mandrill and all this other stuff, and then Parliament-Funkadelic stood out. The Tom and Dog came out during more so my era. It's like 82, 83. But of course, he was like, yeah, that's nice. We like that record too, but boom, boom, and it blew my mind. And then I saw the album cover that changed my life, which was, of course, the Mothership Connection album with a Skinny George in his prime and a UFO. Now, keep in mind, I was already deep into science fiction because Carl Sagan is my favorite writer, and science is my favorite subject besides English and reading. So, and of course, I'm a Trekkie, so I'm into Star Trek and Star Wars as well. So anything that had anything to do with universal space theories, I was into. And that was me as a kid. Yeah, I'm a Marvel Comics, I'm a DC Comics head, all that stuff. So seeing that album cover, then you put the back of the album cover, the UFO was in the ghetto.
In the alley.
In the hood. That's where we're from. We're from the street. So it's like, I understood it without, remember, I didn't meet George until I became an adult. So here I am studying all these albums in my uncle's house. And then I told my mother that the words, I played Mothership Connection every night when I went to bed. I had the headphones, I could plug it in. And I literally, and even when the record would stop, now, of course, it's skipping probably by now, but I'm already conked out because I done got so warped into super groovalistic post-funkification. And I'm just like, I told my mother, I said, Mom, and I was about 11, 12 years old. I'm like, Mom, I'm going to meet George Clinton one day. I want to become a part of the P-Funk Army because besides Prince and Stevie Wonder, who are my 2 main heroes, if there's anybody that can understand the musical chaos in my mind, it would be him. Mm-hmm. And my mother believed me. She was like, do anything you put your mind to. I believe you say it. I believe that you will do it. And of course, that dream came true thanks to 4 individuals in particular. Gabe Gonzalez, my big bro, my mentor, leader of Enema Squad, which is how I got through because it wasn't for him. Excuse me. It wasn't for him taking a chance on me first in terms of directing the stance. And of course, Stozo the Clown definitely did that too because we played a part in being part of his Funkorama thing that he was doing at Wetlands back in the day in New York City. So being part of that, and also shout out to the legendary, the late great, I call her my funk auntie, the queen of funk, Malia Franklin, because she believed in us, and we had her back when the people at Wetlands tried to play her. It was like, well, the other guys can still do the show. I said, we're not doing no show without Malia Franklin. You kidding me? She's the reason why we're here. And from that day forth, up until the day she died. Me and her remained close. Shout out to her son, Seth, who's keeping her legacy alive with his incredible podcast. You know, him and Apollonia from Purple Rain, and he has the book coming out. I can't wait for that. He got all the ladies of P-Funk. I cannot wait for that book. Oh my God. So them, Stozo, and my amazing, beautiful friend Sarah Traeger, you know, one of the most amazing human beings who actually made sure that George got my demo firsthand. You get what I'm saying? Like, she literally made sure that George heard. Once George heard my demo, next thing you know, I'm on a plane going to Tallahassee, Florida to come live with me. And that changed everything. And ended up producing music for George Clinton, and George giving me my first major industry check. It doesn't get no more grand than that. I mean, around that time, a lot of great things were happening in between all that. You know, of course, I forged my friendship and my brotherhood with my Minneapolis heroes. I know we're going to get to that later, but just this all happened during the same time. It's all happening at the speed of light. So this goes to show you that when you trust God and work hard and treat people right and don't do sucker shit, these things were happening. Now, mind you, I was already good in the pleasures I made with my family. So I'm making strides in that. I'm touring with my granddad. I'm doing all this other stuff. But, you know, I'm trying to forge my own fork in the road, even though I love being called that's Sam's son. That's Sam's grandson. We love them. I dug it. But, you know, eventually you have to, I'm like, I do have a name. They know my name. Like, that's Sam's grandson. I'm like, yes, my name is Lawrence. How are you? They can call me Lawrence. And after a while, I'm like, you know, I gotta go over here now. I'm not leaving my grandfather, but I have to go over here and make a name for myself. Yeah. And that was the best. He understood that. Me and my grandfather never had the discussion. He was actually proud because he knew George from back in the day when they were the Parliaments, the doo-wop version, because they used to all be at the Brill Building. Because remember, a lot of people forget George Clinton was a staff songwriter at Motown. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like he was getting paid, like all the other guys, like my grandfather, him, and Janice Gay, my one of my best friends who we just lost as well, rest in peace. Yes. Janice's father, Slim Gilliard, all those guys used to be at the Brill Building. You know what I'm saying? Trying to sell their songs. So when I remember when he found out that I was working with George, he was like, you know, it's my grandfather's way. He's like, yeah, man, he always has something different about him. One of my favorite songs is Ice Cream on a Red Hot. I said, yeah, everybody, because him and Sidney Barnes are best friends. See how that works? Because I didn't meet Sidney Barnes until probably, I'm gonna say 12 years ago, because he's one of my Facebook friends. So it's funny. I put a picture of my grandfather, and he's like, Sam is your grand. I said, hold up, Sidney, uncle, you know Grams? He's like, do I know him? And he put up a picture of him and him back in the late 70s. Yeah. I cried like a baby. When I text George to show Carlon and them, they were like, that connects us more. See, that's how you know when it's authentic, because me being in Parliament-Funkadelic had nothing to do with my grandfather. You know what I'm saying? So because I got into Parliament-Funkadelic, I got into the camp on my own merit, on my talents, on my skill level. Right. And not because of my last name either. So let's get that part straight. We won't get into that. But just more so, people make assumptions a lot of times about the rites of passage that an artist like me has to go through to be involved with a camp such as a P-Funk. You know, the bottom line is I was proven. You know, thank God that Gabe heard my demo and wanted to make me part of his situation, to where he allowed me to be the fullness of who I was. And then, you know, it got to the point where, you know, we forged such a brotherhood, which is often tested on many different levels, to the point where he trusted me with certain things, and then it led to me my co-lead position in Enema Squad. So it's like, it's a dream come true, man. You know, we've lost so many along the way. You know, rest in peace to Boogie. You know, Fuzzy, rest in peace. You know, so many we lost. And of course, my former roommate, the legendary Gary Scheider. Yeah. Shout out to my boy for life, my bro Garrett Scheider, who's out here representing his father's legacy on every level imaginable. You know, shout out to Trizay representing his granddad. Like to me, it's just great to watch that we're all one big ass tree. P-Funk is a big ass tree with a bunch of branches on it. It really is. Yeah. It really is, man. So I'm proud of the work that I've done and I'm still doing, because, you know, I still do shows with 420 and Enema Squad when I'm not doing my own stuff. And of course, you know, every time Dad sees me, it's just like, oh, here we go. I'm like, you know, and it's like, you know, it's part of it. it's part of it. I feel honored when I walk into a room. I've done it before. I go to clubs and stuff like that. I walk into go see my boys Days of Wild, the Red Line in New York City. It's like, oh man, P-Funk is in the building. The Law's up in here. And then they start playing We Want the Funk. I'm like, oh, here they go. And they get me up there to come sing a couple of songs with them, or they'll have me do Maggot Brain and some shit. Like it's the reverence of respect. It's a badge of honor that I wear proudly. Why wouldn't you? I manifested at 12 years old,
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And still, like you said, man, still when they come to town, you link up and still have, still build those memories and all those great things. So you plant those seeds, man, they last forever. That's one of the good things about this business with certain people,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I say this all the time. My fans know I say this all the time. My heroes are my lifeline. When you see me, you see them. The thing is, when you see me hanging out with Donnie Wahlberg, because you gotta remember, I've been a New Kids fan since the day that I saw them. I was in the fifth row at the Apollo Theater. My mother had won first place that night, and New Kids were the special guests. And I told my mother then, I'm gonna meet them one day. And the reason why, of course, I love all of them, but Donnie and Jordan being my top two favorites, because Donnie sang and rapped like I did and danced.
Yeah.
And then Jordan, because my falsetto was really starting to gain steam around 13, 14. And he was one among all the other guys like Russell Tompkins and Ted Wizard Mills from Blue Magic. I know I'm missing some people, but people of that caliber. Russell Tompkins for Stylistics. Like we were into the same people, even though we didn't know each other. I'm just a kid looking at them. Right. Anytime you see me with my heroes, I'm excited. Yes, we're flicking it up. Yes, we're taking pictures. We done took about probably 15 pictures in the 20 years that we've known each other. We're taking more. We're making memories.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And it's simply because, I think in the last 10, 15 years, we've lost our heroes at such an alarming rate more than we ever did before. I personally felt that Prince, Michael Jackson, and George Michael will live forever. I mean, nobody lives forever, but the whole point is that you just want them to live to a grateful old age to still do what they do. And even if they couldn't do it no more, like James Brown did it till he could not do it no more. Tony Bennett, who we just lost, and I did a couple of shows with Tony Bennett as well back in the day. We just lost him. And the thing is, anytime I get to work with or hang with any of my idols, schools in, classes in session, even if we're just shooting the shit. Like I was just with Mars and them not too long ago. I was out in Minneapolis, and it just Mars had a big smile on his face when he saw me. He said, "There he is." That's family. You know what I mean? As that's family. And the thing is that that's because they know, God forbid, if something ever happened, at least he knows that we're going to be carrying their legacy forever. Period. While I still got breath in me, everybody who we lost, anybody who doesn't get the props or the accolades that they should. That's what my platform is used for, because thank God they finally gave George the prop, because, for years, I'm like, great that we celebrated James Brown because he is the creator of funk. Thank God. But at the same time, Sly got his too. He's diversified the funk, but George made funk the genre. He made it a genre. So my thing is that we're not toasting him. When Mark Ronson gave him that shout out when they won for Uptown Funk and all that, it made me love Mark even more. I'm like, see, that's what it's about. Because the thing is just that they know he personified funk. You know what I mean? He personified it. So anytime I get to be with him, or if I run the Billy Bass Nelson, Lodge, Gregory, all the Greg Boyer, all the OGs of P-Funk that are still there, Skeet. Anytime I get with them, it's like a family reunion, and it's also school classes in session. I'm learning stories. I'm learning new things I didn't know before, and then and then mind you, they're cheering me on. They're happy to see me. So it's almost like, man, look, you a bad motherfucker. We see what you doing, man. Like, and that makes me feel good, because they know that I'm really. I said, listen, I learned from the best. I point right to them. I learned from the best.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched upon a couple of things in your conversation right there. You're talking about people we lost, and then you also mentioned creating a genre. I want to touch upon a person that I love very much, a person that you worked with. We lost too soon. Very talented. I think that this person created a genre. Had she continued to live on, Miss Amy Winehouse. One of the true talents gone too soon. This woman um, created a fusion of jazz, rock, reggae, something you can't even categorize. And it's something that if she had kept going, there's no telling what kind of music. And you had the opportunity to actually work with her. If you don't mind just talking a little bit about your work with Miss Winehouse.
Man, I listen, I will never, ever get tired of talking about my lioness little sis. I miss that little girl so much because, you know, a lot has been said, as we know. And what I want people to always know about, and of course, you're going to hear all the controversy, things that happen, different things, but the Amy that I got to know on a personal level, what I want the world to know directly from me because I was there. I'm there. I was there. That girl knew her music. She knew her shit. I put her to the test. When I first met her, this is literally, I'm gonna say, this is actually right after we had did David Letterman. And then we ended up doing the MTV Movie Awards about 3 months later. I put her to the test. I said, well, you know, it's funny, Amy, because you mentioned Mr. Hathaway in your song Rehab. Of course, you know, shout out to my big sis Layla, the incredible Grammy award-winning Layla Hathaway, one of my besties. I love her so much. So I was representing for her because I'm always out here like, let me people like they really Donnie fans. Okay, let me see what you really about because it's easy to say this Christmas. It's easy to say a song for you. Those are easy. Let me see what you really about. I said, what's your favorite Donnie Hathaway album? And she looked at me. Everybody knows she called me Lawsy. But you know, Lawsy, I have to say, yeah, that's a good question. But I love Extension of a Man, which is my favorite Donnie album. So once she said that shit, I just shook my head. Not to mention, she knew about my grandfather's sister. He said, "Well, you know, I dig your granddad, and you know, he played for Ronnie Spector. With the Joy in the South." I'm like, "Oh, she knows her shit." So that's and it made sense. That's why I became a fan. The only way I was going to ever work with her, I had to become a fan because everybody knows the short version of it is when I got offered to sing behind her. I didn't know who she was. I hadn't heard nothing about her, and I'm usually up on everything. So I'm like, how does slip through the cracks? I'm like, who's this? And then I made up a fake line to the manager. I told Ray, I'm like, I said, well, you know, my schedule is crazy, but let me look and get back to you. That was a bold-faced lie because I was literally at the point of my career. I had sang backup for Freddie Jackson, with Melissa Morgan, opened up for Shaka Khan. Like I did some things. So my thing is like, if I'm gonna sing backup behind anybody, even now, I'm still like that. I'm not a snob. I'm just honest. My thing is, you know, my name means something out here now. So when you attach your name to anything or any brand, it somewhat represents who you are. That's why you have to be very careful. And I never, before I became deep into the industry, I never understood when a lot of artists used to say that. I used to be like, oh, they think they all that. I'm like, no, I thought about it. You can't just attach your name to anything. You got to check it out and see if it's really, really real, or do you want to attach that? And the thing was just that I lied to them and I said, let me go on my computer and see who this girl is. I'm going to make sure I'm, you know, David Letterman does sound good. I've never been on David Letterman before. So I'm like, okay, this will be. And once I heard the song Fuck Me Pumps, because it's not what you think it is. I mean, the title is very misleading, but it's really, it had this combination of jazz, hip hop, and soul. And that's on the first album. Because actually, I love Back to Black, but Frank is actually my favorite album. I had it's sitting on my mantle. I had once we got real close, I had a sign it for me and everything. I said, I love Back to Black, but this is my favorite album of yours. And she's like, oh yeah, we and she really thanked me for that. But the thing was, I called them back and I said, I want to do it. I like her. And he's like, and that was it. So I became a fan. So you got to remember, I always say, if you're going to work with an artist on any caliber, whether you're managing them, whether you're producing, songwriting, background singing, playing bass, whatever, I always say that you should be a fan of the artist or get to know the artist's music and see if you do like it. Because if you ain't really a fan of that person, it's not going to show in your playing. It's not going to show in your singing. It's not going to show in how you approach stuff. You know what I mean? Right. And the thing for me was that, you know, Amy knew her shit, man. We would have these inside jokes, and then she would just say, well, outside of my father, it wasn't too many musical people in my family, which blew my mind because, Amy was so musical. I still feel to this day that the world hadn't really seen the full extent
Absolutely not.
of her genius as a musician, not even as a
Absolutely.
songwriter and a singer. Because you gotta remember, a couple of times during the when we did the thing for David Letterman, truth be told, she was kind of tipsy. Y'all don't know that, but she was kind of tipsy. But that girl still can sing a whole lot of folks under the table.
Mm-hmm.
We did a sound check before, we did the whole thing before the audience and stuff came in, and Amy wasn't singing it the same way she sung on the record, but she killed it.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyway, so I'm proud of being part of her legacy. The fans hit me up time and time again. They show me, tattoos of her songs. They put like Tears Dry on Their Own on their arm. And, a lot of people love me and Zyla's choreography because, I know our choreography is famous now from David Letterman. So people love the way that we dance and how we came up with the moves for that. So every now and then I see people doing our steps and stuff and that's always a proud moment for me because I'm known for my dancing, as you know. So that's always a proud moment for me when I see people attempting to do the choreography or just getting into it or imitating what we're doing. And just lets me know that we really have a place in this industry. So God forbid if I had never done anything else, I thank my little sis, not only for allowing me to be her background singer and dancer, but I also was her opening act on a few shows.
Right.
This is at a time when she had the #1 record in the country. She was not obligated. She don't owe me nothing. I was still shopping my stuff around because people just wasn't understanding. And I realized later on, it wasn't because people weren't understanding. They were committed to not understanding me because I knew too much. But the fact that Amy having a #1 record and then she heard my demo thanks to her boyfriend, Blake, and she flipped. She's like, no, you have to open up for me. And she literally fought her record label to have me become an opening act for the first 2 shows in New York. So I'm forever indebted to her because again, she wasn't obligated. She didn't have to do it. She was in the moment of her glory. I always tell people, let people have their moment. You don't know what they lost in the time of season. It was her moment. The fact that she literally wanted me to get a piece of the action. I didn't ask for anything. She came up to me and wanted me to open up for her. So and I just miss her. Like I said, every time I'm in the airport, and it never fails. I'll be in the airport waiting for my flight, and Valerie comes on the loudspeaker. I'm just like, wow. And I look around, and I'm not going around like people don't know me if I sang with Amy or not. Like some people may know, some people may not know. But I look around the airport and I just see, people sing, especially like young girls. Like they love singing, Back to Black and Tears Dry on Their Own and Love Is a Losing Game, and it makes me smile. I have to shed tears sometimes because it's almost like, wow, sis, your influence is still reigning sovereign in this industry. So everything that you just said about in that question was right. I just wanted to answer it in the best way I could.
Absolutely.
Rest in peace, Amy. I love you, sis.
Yeah, wow. Absolutely, man. One of the true queens, man. We wish she was still here, man. Really giving us that raw shit she was giving us, when she first started. Yeah. Just like you said, man, it was just blooming, it was really just coming into her own. Very, very talented and makes some really successful albums and hits, but that was not going to be the best. There was going to be more,
Well, let me get it even a little deeper for you. The thing is, at the time when Amy was out, you had L.A.W, who's also from England, and L.A.W had this real big voice. You know what I mean? Like a lot of power, a lot of. I call her the great haunting because there's a fire starting in my heart. Like just we could have had it all. Very clean, very, almost damn near Aretha-esque, if that makes any sense. Because, Aretha's known for her big voice with a whole bunch of stuff in between. So in my humble opinion, and mind you, because, Adele definitely studied the soul singers, as you know. She made it very clear. She said between Aretha and Beyonce, those are heroes. So you think about the power in her voice. And then you got Lady Gaga, who's our female David Bowie, very artsy in her approach, but very musically inclined, great voice, great composer. And in my personal opinion, she brought the light back to dance music. Dance music was still happening, I mean, but more so in Europe. But you didn't hear it a lot unless you went to the clubs like in Vegas or some shit like that where girls go out and party. You didn't really hear a lot of it. And most people that made those records, they only have like 1 or 2 records, and then that'll be it.
Yeah.
But Lady Gaga brought the focus back to dance music when Just Dance came out, Poker Face, all that stuff. So EDM really got a uplift when Lady Gaga's success happened. But Amy, in the midst of all of that, Amy came with that Motown meets reggae with a dash of hip hop and a little bit of soul and even a little bit of funk in between.
And that look, the look.
And that's all Ronnie Spector.
Yeah, that look. She brought,
So the thing is, and that whole 60s kind of pop, that Phil Spector wall of sound kind of thing.
Right.
Like Back to Black, that's straight up Phil Spector to me. I'm like, that's
total throwback.
Whole wall of sound. I mean, for those who know about production engineering the way that we do, you know, a lot of the labels like Stax and Motown and later Solar Records and things like you knew the sound. Absolutely. When you heard it. And, you know, Amy did her homework. Like I said, Amy did her homework. So those, I had to mention Gaga and L.A.W because this is all happening at the same time. You know, these 3 white girls come in showing that, listen, we know we white, but we study. We got something to show you. We did our homework. I don't care what color you are. It has nothing to do with color when it comes to music. If you done the homework and it's sincere, we rocking with you.
Yeah, for sure.
You know me, I'll call a monk out in a minute. You know me already. And the thing is like for me, I rarely had to do that with people because I could see the authentic part of who an artist is, and you can see it. And then when I watch your interview, I'm waiting to see what you say. Because now I'm looking like, let me see who you done study. Let me see who your heroes are. Because in a lot of ways, let's keep it honest. Who your hero in a musical sense, who your heroes are, say a lot about you. In a weird way, if you think about it. It doesn't define you, but it's almost like, okay, I get it now. Okay, I kind of see. That's why I never got offended when I would go and do shows and people literally can see the majority of the influences. So like one girl's be like, okay, New Edition. I saw that step. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty obvious. But like you got that. I saw that Bobby Brown move, or I heard that shocker note. I heard that shocker note that you did because it's embedded in me. So when I'm singing, you're going to get all facts to that. When I'm playing, you know, music, they can draw from what all those influences are. So all 3 of those ways, but particularly Amy, to me, was the more diverse one. And Gaga's very diverse, too. I mean, Adele is starting to really be a little bit more diverse in her approach. But Lady Gaga and Amy were definitely the more diverse. But at that particular time, when they all came out at the same time, Amy was the most diverse one out of all. I think that she had more to offer in that sense, because like I said, Gaga became more. She showed more of her range musically later. So,
you also, man, created a genre. I call it a brand.
Rip, me?
Yeah.
You created a genre?
You created a genre, a brand. I call it a brand because it's a name. Okay. Planet 12, you know, which is your baby. Your creation, you know, it's your project. I want you to talk a little bit about coming up with the origins of Planet 12. I know you mentioned earlier about being a Trekkie and things like that. So I know all that kind of filtered into there. But talk a little bit about creating that, you know, that name and building it to what it is and releasing those projects.
Okay, here we go. So basically, you know, because I'm giving you the best version of it. So basically, like I said earlier, you know, most things that were of the scientific or sci-fi nature really intrigued me. You know what I mean? Like, even though, of course, I love comedy, I love, you know, all things. You know, Benny Hill is my favorite show growing up. So it's like a lot of those different things. You know, The Honeymooners. I'm like a typical '80s baby, so I love Different Strokes. You know, Small Wonder. Facts of Life. You know, I'm your typical '80s baby, pop culture baby. I'm definitely that kid. I grew up watching all the white TV shows, the black TV shows. Like I was into all of it. Right. But in the midst of all that, there were movies like Weird Science, where, you know, Gary and Wyatt built their own Barbie. Then you got things like, you know what I mean? Then you got Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Then you got Poltergeist. Then you got Alien and Aliens. Yes, sir. So all these things are filtering through my psyche between the ages of 7 and 12 years old. My musical worlds were colliding, but so were my tastes and everything else that I was involved in the mix of getting into what I was getting into. So, you know, and of course, my personality as a kid, as most people already know, is to sum up equal parts because I grew up with 4 sets of friends, and this is what makes up who Law is. First set of friends were my artsy friends, the ones that had talent, that can sing, that can draw, that can write. I couldn't draw, but I can do everything else. You know, I'm writing, singing, performing in talent shows. Me and my sister, and different things like that. Plus, I play sports too, so the thing that made it easier. Then you had my nerdy friends who were very scholastic. They were into reading and reading books and getting deep and doing research and going to hanging out at the library. I was one of those kids too. And then there's the other 2 sides. Third set of my friends were all game members. Low-Lives, Deceps, Faceheads. That's Brooklyn. You know, if for those who know, Latin Kings, you know, okay. Most of my friends were in all these games. These are most of my friends who I ran with, who I actually hung out with. So that's the whole part about it. And they never try to recruit me or nothing like that because, as most people know, the Taylors and the Worrells and the Cooks, that's all my family names. We were already a game without being a game. So that I had that respect already. So I didn't have to join the game to gain respect.
Yeah.
I had that already. Plus I could hold my own. I didn't run to my older brother when I got into a fight.
Right.
It's a difference. So and then there's the last set of friends, which were the hustlers. The ones that wasn't with all that gang shit. It was all about just, you know, get money. You know what I mean? Brooklyn, you know, you're a chaos one. Brooklyn keeps on taking it because Brooklyn was known. We stick up kids. And of course, what they say, Queens get the money, because Queens had a lot of prominent hustlers too. You know what I mean? It was all about getting that bread. And this is the time period. So all those equal sides of who I am. I'm weird. I'm eccentric, but I'm still hood as fuck.
Right.
Didn't change that part. You know what I mean? Because those parts had to really develop in all of those synergies. So my personality was all over the place. I was very different, even from my own brothers and sisters, because we all had similar traits because obviously we're brothers and sisters, but my cousins too. But they'd be like, where Law at? And then they're like, oh, Law in the room. Oh, there he is. He over there reading some book. And then next thing you know, it's like, oh, what is he doing now? Oh, he's over there playing bass. He's been in that room for like 6 hours learning some Prince song, you know, and that was me. I love being outside, and everybody knows I'm a video game head too. So combine all of this. This is all me. Super Nintendo segment. When Biggie said that, I felt it. This is all me between the ages of 6, Atari as well, Atari, ColecoVision, all that. And as I discovered that my musical worlds were colliding, everybody started to be like, man, Law, you on your own planet, man. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're right. I mean, my favorite planet is Saturn. So I'm just like, as everybody knows, look at the solar system, Saturn is the coolest looking planet of all of them. Has the nice ring around it.
The rings, yeah.
Literally, yeah, exactly. So the thing is, and I got deep into that. So as I'm studying astrology and getting deeper into who I was and learning about what it meant to be a Scorpio, and mind you, just so we're clear, I'm not no astrologist. I'm not into tarot readings and all that stuff. However, when I learned about how much what it was adjacent to my sign, certain things about my personality began to make sense. Especially as I got older. Like when you're young, you just kind of figuring it out. But once I turned like 16, 17, and it's not until people start telling me. I'm like, it's like, yeah, you're a very ambitious, confident kind of person. I guess I am. Mm-hmm. You know, and then of course there's the sensual side. We won't get into that, but you know, I'll leave that. So the whole thing is, so right around this time, I'm learning who I was. Now I'm getting pulled in 2 different directions. Keep in mind, my peers, the ones who are my age, yo, Lord, man, that rhyme you did was dope, man. I love the way you dance. You know, I can't get all that singing stuff you do, but when you start rhyming and dancing, you know, we love that. Yeah. And then you had my mother's friends, all of her friends that marveled at this young kid who would go to a store, and if he saw a piano, he would jump on it and start playing it, even if he only knew 2 or 3 chords at the time. So now here's my mother and my aunt's friends. You know, baby, like you know, Lord, I love when you sing lines. You sound good, baby. That, especially when you hit that high note. Now I can't get with all that hippity hop stuff. I ain't into that shit. But I love the way you sing. So I'm torn between two worlds now.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out, sing, do I rap? Do I rap and sing? Do I sing and rap? And then one day, it just so happened to be when I turned 12 years old, I said, fuck that shit. I'm going to do all of it. Why not? That's what I've been exposed to. Think about it. By that point, I have been exposed to all styles of music at that point. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking, so now that I'm putting it together, I'm like, okay, I need to brand this thing because I know that I even then I knew I was different. I'm like, okay, so of course there's other bands I'm looking at. I said, yeah, but even though those bands are my influences, they're still from the 70s and 60s. This is the late 80s and early 90s now, and I got to be part of what my section is. Yeah. So all of a sudden, that's when my Uncle Tony let me have the Parliament-Mothership Connection album. And when I saw that, and like I said, the album cover, Skinny George on the UFO, and on the back of it, he's in the hood. That's me. That's who I am. I'm one foot in the galaxy because I'm into the space and all that other stuff. Carl Sagan's my favorite writer. Cosmo's one of my favorite books. But yet, I'm still a Brooklyn hood dude that if you test me, I'll bust your ass. I'm still street with it. I was raised by the best.
Right.
You know what I mean? And mind you, the bullies wanted to hang out with me. Because when they see me cook one of the bullies' ass, they're like, okay, he's different. We can't bully this guy. So I have respect. And I wasn't walking around like, yeah, I'm tough guy, Mr.
Yeah.
In order to get respect, you have to give respect. I've always respected the OGs. I always respected everybody around me until they gave me a reason not to. Mm. So that's an extension of who I am too. So I'm like the best of both worlds. And then that's when it hit me. 12 is my favorite number. Planet 12. Not to mention, I'm 12 years old at the time. And L is the 12th letter of the alphabet. There's 12 notes in music. It all made sense. And then that's not to abbreviate my name. My first rap name was L.A.W after the TV show. Okay. And it's just for lyrical assassinator giving lyrical aspects. By the way, my older brother Casino Chip named me Law first. He's the first one to call me Law. So, okay. But then it became L.A.W. And I'm like, that's dope. But then of course, when I learned about copyrights and publishing at an early age, I'm like, oh damn, I can't use that name. They'll probably sue me. NBC, they had the show. Jimmy Smith. You know, so my thing is like, okay, let me break it down to a compound. Let's just call it Law. L.A.W. First thing, lyrical assault weapon. Because of at that point, you know, I was a battle MC. I won every last rap battle I had. I was a warrior when it came to battle. Nobody could beat me. So the thing was that lyrical assault weapon, he nothing to play with. But then I never stopped singing. You gotta remember, the deeper I got into rap, I didn't stop singing. I still was singing. But singing and rapping, with the exception of Brenda K. Starr, my iconic big sis, and later on Queen Latifah and Force and D's, of course, and of course New Edition, it wasn't really cool to be a singer and a rapper. And thank God for Lauryn Hill, because Lauryn Hill put the final stamp on the quintessential dope-ass singer, but also a dope MC. So I had permission now. I had the full-on permission to be everything of who I was. And the thing was that loving all women. Why is that? What does that mean? L.A.W. loving all women? Because the girls like the way I sung. Okay, look, guys are cool. Thank God that the guy, you know what I mean? Like, because that's the thing. If you got the guys rooting for you, they try to be cool and shit. Like, they don't want to show you no real love. But every show we ever did, when we was done with it, like, yo, that was ill. That was dope, man. That was dope. They showed you love. They realized you wasn't a threat. But, you know, the girls are what matter. The ladies. Yeah. Because if the ladies like you, if you got a look, and you can sing, and you can rap, and you got talent, and you really are your personality, they're gonna come in, they're gonna pay for them shows. They're gonna come see your shows. I learned that early. That's it. Girls, women buy the records. Like a lot of dudes that be trying to front like they don't like New Kids or any other boy band. But if you're like, they all right. They all right. But guess what? How you gonna make your girl happy? Yep. She want them tickets. She want to go see Jodeci and Boys to Men.
And she wants you to go with her.
She wants you to go with her. And then see, and Keith Sweat said it best. He followed the great Teddy Pendergrass. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want me to take your lady, I'll take her. But I'm not trying to take your woman. I'm getting her ready for you.
Right, right.
And you got to remember, I understood that concept very early. So nobody never had to tell me that. Because remember, I'm trying to be like them. That's the reason why we studied all the boy bands, the black and the white ones. We like, I want to make the girls scream too. So the loving all women part of it. And then the third meaning of my name is self-explanatory. It's the first 3 letters of my name. My real name is Lawrence.
Right.
So it just made sense. So that is the origin of how Planet 12 came to be. And then, of course, you know, on the flip side, it became Planet 12 Law, whichever one you wanted to call it. I mean, my legendary, iconic friend, DJ Spinderella, still calls me Planet. She's the only one that can call me Planet and make it sound good. Look, who's going to argue with the world's greatest female DJ of all time that just happens to be your homegirl from Pink House Projects in East New York? How are you going to argue with that? You know what I mean? So that's pretty much how it became, you know?
Dope, man. And then, so the first official project, that was a Planet 12 Syndrome, correct?
Yes. Oh, man, that album. Yeah, that, woo.
So that was a long time in the making then, huh?
It was, well, I mean, it was, because you got to remember, I mean, let me get to the brass tacks of it all. So, you know, there's a whole history there, and I don't want to take up too much time with that. Between as I'm doing all this stuff with P-Funk, you know, I'm making my rounds, I'm recording. Yeah. The first group I put together was a group out of high school called the Bionic Idiots, which is named after a term that George used on the song the Wiggles, you know.
Right.
Wiggles on Motor Booty Affair. That's how deep we were in the P-Funk, because until we saw Digital Underground, we thought we was the only ones repping P-Funk on the hip-hop level. And then once we saw them, it was like, man, fuck. Rest in peace to Shock G. That's funny, because the beat was like, man, fuck them. We better. Humpty Dance is dope, but we better than them niggas. And then after a while, I bought Sex Packers. I'm like, you know what? I kind of like them. I like them. And when I met Shock G years later, I'm so glad I told that whole story. I'm like, yo, I ain't gonna lie, man. We was looking at these dudes like, man, fuck that. We had the P-Funk. And then I realized, they're from the West Coast. How would we know? We wouldn't have known.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I became a diehard DU citizen. So, you know, the thing for me is just even more so in the realm of that. But and even me figuring that part out, you know, you begin recording ideas. And the group my group didn't last long. So, of course, I was always a leader anyway. I'm producing all the music. I'm the concept. I even wrote a couple of rhymes for one of the members. And the thing is, I had songs. So I'm going through all this stuff, because I figured if I get me a deal, it'll be the best way to launch. Because people got to remember, at the time, up until I'm going to say probably 97, with the exception of Your Amazing Coast, my second home, L.A., West Side, you already know. With the exception of the West Coast and the Southwest, Cash Money Millionaires, No Limit Soldiers, E40, who I love, E40, Too Short, Bay Area. With the exception of all those guys making waves, it was not cool to be an indie artist. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Being an independent artist was cool. Like, dudes, people who had major deals would literally laugh at you if you had an indie, like, oh, you an indie artist, ha ha ha. Because there was no power outside the people I just mentioned. There was no power in the indie part. But then, of course, as they gained momentum, because they still have physical CD sales and all that stuff. But then once the internet happened, it got even more. Now it's almost like, oh, we can really own our art now. We can really do this thing ourselves for real, and we don't have to go through that, because after a while, CDs became somewhat obsolete, as we know.
Right.
I mean, they're not obsolete now. They came back, obviously. Right. But at that time, once, you know, things like Napster and all that shit started happening, you know, I mean, I got to tell you, we both got collections. So, you know, it's like, it's literally in that moment. So I'm thinking, if I get me a deal, then I can finish the rest of the record. But it seemed like, of course, you know, I was getting met with resistance. They didn't want to sign me, you know, and like I said, it had nothing to do with talent. It had to do with a lot of the fact because I knew my business. When you know your value and your worth, you are automatically a threat.
Absolutely.
Especially when you're young and you're Black.
Absolutely.
You're a threat. You can't tell a white executive because they don't want to hear that. They want you nice and young and dumb. Because they know that you're not gonna get a lawyer, and especially if you haven't been seeing no money like that. That's why I thank God for my mother and my aunts that own businesses and my family, because I was seeing bread. With no disrespect to none of my hustling friends, I didn't have to go to the streets to make money to make myself applicable. I had a good pay. I was a school teacher. I was getting my gigs after that. After a while, I was getting a couple of this before I did the corporate gig thing. So before that came along, I was making a couple of $100 with my grandfather. And, you know, at that time, $100 is a lot of money. You know, $200, you know, get you 2 pair of New Balances for the price of one. Back then, you could get 2 pairs for $89. Back then.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm saying. Like, I'm in the flick of all of this, figuring that part out of the balance of which needed to be withheld, and learning that as I'm recording my album, I'm still trying to get this deal. But then I realized, you know what, Law? You're going to have to really do this shit yourself. You're going to have to really dig even deeper to to make your presence be felt in terms of what you're trying to do, because these labels are not getting it and they're doing it on purpose. So what you gonna do? And literally, it just so happens right around that time, you know, TuneCore and all that. This is, I think it's like right around the time CD Baby came out, probably a year later or right around that same time. And after trying it with management, you know, because my other manager, shout out to Fred Martin, you know, my first manager, he was very good for me. You know, he did his best. He invested in me. He did believe in me. That's why we're still friends to this day, even after I had to let him go as manager. They were shopping. It's just like, man, Lord, they just not getting. I'm like, well, you know what? I'm gonna have to do this on my own, man. I can't. I'm not gonna let my vision or my music or my legacy of what I'm trying to build die.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I was able to put out Plantar Syndrome, and the doors flew open. A lot of different things happened. I mean, you know, we sold damn near over probably what 15,000 units of this shit. Streaming numbers I couldn't even tell you at this point, because that record is still doing. It's still doing numbers. Like I see people all the time. They're like new fans are discovering it. That's why this whole month and next month, I'm doing something I didn't do when I first put it out. I'm putting out singles, because I never officially released singles, because by that point I developed a fan base that was really into the whole album.
Yeah.
I remember I only had 3 albums. So things like they were into the albums. And then between that time, I said, okay, let me just start building collateral. Let me just start building upon these people who are liking what I'm doing. And at that time, you know, here comes MySpace and Twitter and Facebook, and then of course Instagram, and you know, and it became, let's use all of it. Let's push forward. You know, I didn't buy my followers, thank God. You know, I didn't do any of that. Like I literally hustled and started selling not just my music, but selling my personality so that people can get into the music. You know, for good or for worse, because some people don't like the way I talk. I don't give a shit, but you know, I'm a very direct person. So it's like, you know, I'm very personable with certain things, but then there's a whole lot of people that just love the way I'm real. It's not fake. I really am who I am. And people really gravitated towards that. And to be honest with you, a lot of people became fans of the way I spoke before they even heard the music or saw a show. To me, that's actually better, because if you're drawing, because I wasn't out there like, you know, when I first came on social media, I was like, buy my record, buy my record, buy my record. And some people got into that, but it was almost like a lot of people weren't responding either, because it's almost like, I thought about it. There's 30 million artists doing that right now at that particular time.
Right.
How do I stand out? I'm gonna be like everybody, like, oh, there's another one of artists trying to sell his music on here. And I'm like, okay, Lord, start talking about what you know, where you've been, who you are, who you worked with. Yeah, it's okay to name drop. Like I tell people all the time, name dropping is only bad when you ain't got no names to drop, or you're lying.
Or you can't back it up.
Or you're lying. Or you can't back it up.
Right.
Because I could drop George Clinton, Lionel Richie names of all the people who I work with. But if my work and what you see in them videos and what you hear when I come out the studio with fresh product, if that shit ain't good, all this is a lost cause. What James Brown said, talking loud and ain't saying nothing. So I never wanted to be that guy. So if I'm going to chat and talk, I'm going to talk about what I know and who I know, because I can back it up. And that's some Brooklyn shit, by the way. Brooklyn, we're known for that. We back up what we speak.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the thing for me was that making sure people understood my personality. And some people got turned off, but they didn't understand. They didn't know. They didn't get the chance to understand what we were doing. Me and my best friend Khalid was like, yo, we got to build the brand like this. And of course, you know, trash talking and shit talking is part of the Brooklyn aesthetic. And my favorite boxer besides Mike Tyson is Muhammad Ali. So we said, you know, we need a moniker. You know, Muhammad Ali was the greatest. Michael Jackson's the king of pop. Prince is his world badness. You know, we need something that set alongside of that. Yeah. And that's how my DJ came up with the moniker, the most talented kid in the music business. I didn't like it at first. I hated it. I didn't like it. You know why? Because I thought it was putting on too much. I'm like, you sure I ain't putting on too much? He's like, Lord, think about it. You're a real singer that happens to be a real MC that really plays 7 instruments, can really dance, and you don't mind playing a lead role, but you also play a background role too. You produce, you songwrite. And the reason why I'm calling you kid is because when you get on that stage, you're like a damn, even though you're a grown ass man, you're like a kid, you're like a 5-year-old. You act out, just have fun. And I said, you know what, Khalid? You're absolutely fucking right.
Yeah.
Let's go with that. And you know, after a while, you know, it was some resistance. Be like, who does he think he is? After a while,
it's
after a
stuck.
while, you know, you've seen it. After a while, after years, you know, when they shout me out, or when my birthday comes along, happy birthday to the most talented kid, because they understood what we were doing. People finally got the whole thing behind my personality and how you have to sell your brand, because it is self-promotion. Some of us artists, including myself, we don't have $1 million budgets.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We don't have that. Like we have to use what we have to get what's required for us to continue to do what we're doing. So thank God.
I'm a witness to that.
You already know exactly. Like I was saying, you know. So thank the Lord that I do have names to drop. Name dropping only is bad when you're lying. See, a lot of people used to lie. That's what made name dropping bad. When people are like, I know so. The next thing you know, you go to that person or run to that person and be like, I don't know that dude. Then you want to look stupid. Then you want to look crazy. So the thing is that, you know, because people always accuse me of that. And I'll be like, I said, no, y'all only mad because you wish you had a name to drop. Because a lot of artists who I came up in the game with, there's a lot of jealousy, as you know. That's a whole nother, we'll get into that later. But there's a lot of jealousy going on. And people were hating on me because of the fact that I worked hard and my merit speaks for itself. So they was mad at the attention that my heroes, anybody else who was digging what I was doing, was getting into me. So I'm like, what do you want me to do? Apologize for what I'm supposed to do? Turn down my dopeness to make you feel better about your insecurity? And no, because I roll with nothing but winners. My older brother was the Deion Sanders of the school that we went to. We went to school in Arizona. We don't come from that. We don't walk with our head down. We walk with our head up high. So all of our friends are the same way. We don't look down on people, but you know, my mother used to always say, no matter where you go in life, always walk with your head up high. And if you see somebody reaching for you, pull them up and show them how to walk with their head high, just like you're doing right now. I sell confidence, not arrogance. I sell confidence in letting people know that you can do whatever you put your mind to. And that's the main thing, because if I would have sat back and believed everything the labels told me, or been like, yeah, I can't get with this new technology. I'm not really equipped. I can't. I'm such a spring. Imagine if I would let Planet 12 syndrome just sit in my computer. You know what I'm saying? Imagine if I would have just gave up when everybody laughed when I said Planet 12.
Yeah. I
have more positive support. Don't get it twisted. I have more good support than people who wasn't feeling what I was doing. But I had to go that confidence, because as everybody knows, I'm extremely humble. I'm nice. I'm cordial. But as I often say, coming up in the industry, it got me nowhere. I started to learn that. Until Lawrence became Law, that's when things began to change. They had to take me seriously. Because if I just sat back and just be like, okay, no, I'm just really, fuck that. I'm like, no, I am humble. Anybody that meets me and hang out with me, they know how humble and cordial and nice I am. I'm very respectful until you give me a reason to do otherwise. Other than that, I don't, you know, and the thing was just that I went to sell that part. That's why I became that, because if I didn't have that confidence to keep me going, I struggled, and, you know, only having $15 in my bank account, you know, at the time, and that's when I wasn't doing corporate, you know, in between, before my grandfather came back to New York. Then, of course, at that time, I'm a husband. I got 4 children, you know what I mean? So thank God I was able to work in school teachers and make some good money, but I knew I wanted to make more money doing what I love to do, not what I had to do. So people don't understand. That's why when they be like, Wall walks around, I'm like, if you knew my story, you would understand. A lot of people are just now learning more of my story. So thank God for that first album. You know, thank God for Planet Soul Syndrome, because it opened so many doors for me that I believe I probably wouldn't have had open until probably years later, probably even up until now. But because of that, my first album doing so good critically, and, you know, like I said, it ain't platinum or gold or anything like that, but it's platinum and gold in reference to people who became fans of mine. And when they talk about P-Funk based albums, anything in relation to the combination of hip hop, funk, rock, soul, and jazz, and of course I got country music on there. I Don't Want to Be American Idol was a country song. I love country music. So the thing was, for me, they couldn't believe it. It was like, damn, like Law actually sounds good doing country too. I'm like, because I love, not everybody, I was like any genre of music, I love certain people. So that connected a lot of my audience. They're like, damn, like, if Law's from the streets of Brooklyn and he's being himself while doing country music. So
gotta love that.
You gotta love that. I wasn't wearing no damn cowboy hat. Nothing wrong with cowboy. I have a couple cowboy, but I wasn't wearing no cowboy hats trying to fit into Nashville. You know, and I love Nashville. I was being myself, paying homage to the capital of country music. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, the long story short, thank God for that album. Thank God that It's still getting me a lot. I'm still getting booked off of it. I'm still getting a lot of leverage. People are like, damn, where have I been? And that album is holding up. It's almost damn near what I put it out in what 2009, 2010.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
13 years, 12,
like
13.
13 years. And then I re-released. Let me show you how much my fans love me. Re-released the shit, put bonus tracks on, including my song Barry White Memorial with the great John Patitucci on bass. Everybody can't say that. I wrote bass lines for John Patitucci. Everybody can't say that. Now you understand why I feel the way I feel. That may not mean shit to somebody, but if you're into jazz fusion and you know who John Patitucci is,
Exactly.
he's a bass god, not God, God. He's a bass god. That's the level us bass players are trying to get to. That's the level we want to get to. And to have him co-sign my bass playing and actually play bass lines that I wrote for him to play in the studio for a project that we did, and then to jump on that record, you know what I'm saying? I get emotional, man, because it's like, you know, if I don't do nothing else in life, these are pivotal moments in my career that give me the reason to keep going and to continue to be confident in who I am as an artist, as a songwriter, as a producer, in every aspect of my talent. So thank God for that album, man.
Yeah, absolutely.